He hadn't seen the creature in 6 years. Not since the night everything was torn away under a sky too quiet to care. But now, standing on the edge of a foreign sanctuary, with nothing but a name and a feeling he couldn't shake, he saw it. Massive, scarred, silent, and something in his chest cracked open, because the eyes were the same. Not wild, not tame, but waiting. And before the mind could make sense of what the heart already knew, the rhino stepped forward, slow, deliberate, unstoppable, like memory made. Flesh, and as the distance closed, and breath hitched in the heat, there was no roar, no charge, only a bow of the massive head, a soft exhale against the chest of the boy who had once saved him, and somewhere inside, that silence louder than any scream. Years vanished. The pain folded in on itself, and the bond that never broke remembered how to breathe. Each morning, the boy rises before the sun, not because he must, but because something in him won't let him sleep past the hush of first light, when the world is still too quiet to lie. He moves through the village with practiced calm, fetching water, checking fences, tending to animals with a patience that looks like peace. But in his hands the movements are too careful, too soft, like he's afraid of breaking something invisible when he walks past the old pen. He never looks directly at it, but his steps slow just slightly, his fingers brushing the wooden rail once as if by accident. And in the afternoons when children laugh and chase goats, he sits, apart mending nets or carving small figures in wood. Always rhinos, always the same shape over and over, and though no one asks, he never names them. Sometimes at dusk he climbs the ridge behind the huts, where the wind carries the scent of dust and dry grass, and he just stands there, eyes scanning the horizon for nothing in particular, or maybe for something he's not ready to admit. And when night falls and the crickets sing, he hums without realizing a quiet melody broken in places like he's forgotten parts of it, but sings anyway as though the act alone might call something back from wherever it's been sleeping inside him. It happened in seconds, a crack in the sky, a scream across the grass, the pounding of feet, not hers, not his, not anything she could protect him from, and the air filled with metal and smoke and blood. She tried to lift him, her horn nudging the soft curve of his side again and again, as if this time he would rise. This time he would answer. But his eyes were half closed, and his breathing shallow, and the ground beneath him already taking more than she could give. And then they came shouting, hitting, driving her back, the pain in her flank sharp, but nothing compared to what they were tearing from her. And when she finally fled, she did not run. She stumbled, her chest empty, her body heavy, as if a piece of her had been carved out and left to rot beneath the dust. The boy found the calf just after dawn, the light too clean for what it showed. He froze at first, unsure if it was alive. And when he touched the warm skin trembling under his fingers, something in him folded inward and never quite unfolded again. He carried the calf he fed him, named him, sang to him when no one was listening. And for a while, the world was quiet again, just the two of them moving in the same rhythm, a boy and a creature who'd both lost something they couldn't name. But peace is not permanent, it is borrowed. And when the men came with clipboards and plans and words like sanctuary and future, he didn't know how to stop them, couldn't explain what it meant to take something from him again, this time slower, but just as final. They didn't let him say goodbye, they said it was better that way. After that, he stopped singing, stopped carving. The laughter left his mouth like a bird startled mid-flight. He did his chores. He spoke when spoken to, but the world no longer reached him the way it used to, and the calf now growing strong in a place of fences and strangers closed in on himself, the kindness once sparked by a human hand, now replaced by silence. He ate, he grew, but did not seek affection, did not answer names. The warmth in his eyes cooled into something wary and distant. Years passed like this, quietly cruel, not loud enough to break, but long enough to hollow them both out from the inside, a dull ache that never left a silence that didn't soothe, just lingered, filling every space where memory used to live. Let me pause here for a moment. What about you? Where are you listening from right now? Has there ever been a time in your life when someone, maybe a person, maybe even an animal, recognized you after years apart. A look, a sound, a feeling that said, "I remember you even when words weren't needed." If stories like this speak to something in your heart, make sure to follow. There's so much more ahead that might just find its way to you. It started with a photograph, blurry, sun-drenched a post online about a transfer between sanctuaries. Nothing remarkable to anyone else, just a grey shape in a field, muscles tense head, slightly bowed a note beneath it. Adult male rhino, unusually distant, avoids human contact. But to him, it wasn't the horn or the posture. It was the eyes. Something about the way they weren't looking at the camera, the way they were looking past. And in an instant, the years collapsed, the dust, the quiet, the scent of warm hide against his shoulder. All of it came rushing back, and for a second he couldn't breathe. He told himself it couldn't be real, that time changes things, that animals forget. But another part of him whispered, "No, not this one, not him, not after everything they had shared." He didn't sleep that night, the memory stirring too loudly for silence to hold it. And in the morning, his hands were already packing, as if the decision had been made before his mind caught up. On the flight, he kept picturing the calf, small, fragile, leaning against him as he sang under the stars, now replaced by something enormous, powerful, untouchable. And the fear came in waves. What if he didn't remember? What if the distance had erased it all, or worse? What if approaching I would only scare him further away? But beneath the fear, there was something else. A thread of knowing that had never truly broken. And when he arrived and asked the handlers, they shrugged, said that one doesn't come close to anyone, told him gently not to expect much. But he didn't come for closeness. He came for the truth, for the look that would either break him or bring him back. And so he stood at the edge of the enclosure, heart, pounding breath, shallow, afraid to hope, but unable not to, and waited in silence for something he couldn't explain, but had never truly let go. The sun is low when it happens, heat still clinging to the earth, the kind that makes everything shimmer like a half-remembered dream, and the man stands motionless at the edge of the enclosure, hands loose at his sides, dust curling around his boots like smoke. He doesn't call out, doesn't move, just watches as the great shape in the distance shifts heavy and slow, turning toward him, shoulders like stone, breath like thunder. At first, there's nothing in the rhino's eyes, only instinct, distance, the hardened caution of something long alone. And then, with no warning, he charges. The sound is deep and wild, hooves pounding the ground in a storm of dust. Handlers yelling, footsteps scrambling behind him, but the man does not flinch. He doesn't run, because in that rising roar there's something familiar, a rhythm he once knew and lost. The rhino closes the space fast, unstoppable, but just before impact there's a pause, a falter, a breath. The moment stretches thin as a blade, and the dust hangs suspended, and the man barely whispers a sound, not even a word, just a tune broken and unfinished from another life. The lullaby. The rhino stops, not in confusion, not in fear, but in stillness, like something ancient inside him just woke from a long, long sleep. His ears twitch, his eyes narrow, and for one long moment he stares. And then he moves, not back, not away, but forward, slow, deliberate, like he's walking through memory itself. And the man doesn't breathe, as the massive horn lowers, not in threat, but reverence, until it touches his chest, light as a sigh. There's no sound, no cheering, no words, just breath and dust, and the pounding of hearts that had once beat in the same rhythm, and somehow still do. In that silence, everything unravels and rewrites the years, the distance, the pain. None of it stronger than this. Recognition. Not imagined, not wished for, but real, raw and wordless. The boy he remembered never left. The calf he lost was never truly gone. It doesn't happen all at once. There is no sudden flood, No dramatic leap. Only small things, quiet things. The rhino no longer turns away when the man approaches his massive body. Stills when he hears that soft humming, the same broken tune now, sung with steadier breath. And in the early hours before the sun has fully risen, the man reaches out and brushes dust from the rhino's thick skin. And the creature stays still, eyes half closed, as if remembering something warm. Later, the rhino begins to follow him, not closely at first, just a few steps, a hesitation, but over days that distance shortens until he walks beside him. Not led, not forced, simply with him, and the handlers watch in silence, unsure what they're witnessing. Unsure how to name something so old and so new. The man starts speaking again, not to people, but to him, telling stories as he works in the enclosures, laughing under his breath, in a way no one has heard in years. Sometimes he sits in the grass and carves again. Not many, just one small wooden rhino left on a stone near the fence the next day. It's gone, taken or buried, no one knows. And sometimes in the soft light of evening, the rhino lowers his head, gently nudging the man's shoulder. A simple gesture, but heavy with memory. And the man leans into it without fear, not needing to be held, just known. What was broken didn't disappear. It waited in silence, in memory, in instinct. And now it returns. Not as it was, but deeper shaped by loss and distance, but no longer ruled by them. They do not need words. They have breath, rhythm, presence. And as the wind stirs the tall grass and the sun slips behind the trees, you can feel it in the hush that settles between them. Not a beginning, not an ending. Just this, the quiet. Proof that love remembered still lives, still moves, still matters. Some bonds don't fade with time. They survive in silence, in the spaces between memory and instinct, waiting patiently beneath the noise of the world. This wasn't just a reunion. It was a return to something truer than time. He found the part of himself he thought was gone, and the creature who had forgotten how to trust remembered the sound of being loved. No words were needed, because real connection doesn't vanish. It waits, quietly, until the moment it's needed most. And when it comes back, it doesn't just remember, it heals.